On Tuesday, June 7th, 2020, we are back again today to try to discuss and finalize our budget, and I underline finalize, and hopefully we can do it in a reasonable short time. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the manager to take us forward.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'd like to go through the slides that I went through last night to make sure everybody's on the same sheet of music. You had a little bit of time to review it. I believe council consensus last time we met was the manager's recommended course of action for 3% COLA, 1% merit, and $300 bonus, that we would add into that the GPD and the GFD requests for retention pay, and that was going to be offset by the $500,000 road paving twice the tax increase. We were going to consider the 2% bonus for all employees with department offsets. I went through that yesterday. We'll bring those slides up again to see if there's any questions. And again, we would not fund the council dais or the citizen survey. We would use existing dais and a free survey. And we would not fund the street sweeper or reduce that, which would reduce our vehicle loan from 2.4 to 2.1 million and reduce the payment accordingly. And that we would swap the budgeted garbage truck rear end loader for a front end loader because of the fire that took place in that vehicle within the last month that we'll need to replace within the budget cycle. Is there any council additions or thoughts they would like to bring about than this from what was consensus at the budget meeting before?
Well, I would like for us to take a look at, in light of the information that was shared last night, I would like for us to take a look at removing the 20% tax utility rate. I know that it will impact the expenditure, and see if we can't try to balance the budget without that 20% utility rate.
How does the council feel about that? Want to make a motion that we remove it?
Yes.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made. Is there any discussion?
I can't support that. You know, these are two different budgets. The general fund is very different than the utility fund, so that removing that is not really going to change what happens in the general fund. But we all went and visited those plants. We all went and visited the water treatment facility and saw the cracks in the concrete that go from the ground to the second floor. Yes, the building is functioning, and yes, it has plenty of life left in it. There's no debating that. But we've got to make some repairs. We've got to make some repairs to ensure that we can meet some of the basic needs of our community. And I mean, there was a picture on the newspaper, which I get sent copies of, which is kind of awesome, and of me standing next to one of the major cracks, to one of the major water settling ponds, I guess that's what it's called, on the concrete side, where you could see all of the different pilot holes that they've had to drill over the years to be able to tap into cracks to be able to then pump and pull the cement, which is the whole point of the engineering study that this is supposed to fund, or part of what this is supposed to fund, to be able to figure out what the best way to fix these facilities are and to keep these facilities operating. So I can't support that motion, at least in its entirety.
And I agree, I went with you too, but I said 20%, and I really did mean 20%. But if we could not do the 20%, and at least not let it be 20%, let it be 10%, 5% or something, 20%, well, I don't agree with the utility rate at all, but I would feel more comfortable if it was less than 20% and see if we can't balance the budget.
The motion is for 20%, and it was second.
Well, do you want to amend your motion then? Because if I mean, she can
I
amend her
can't,
motion.
I
right?
can't, the motion was 20%, and that's what I want, 20%. But I can amend it to us taking a look at staggered increase. I can amend that motion to taking a staggered increase of the utility rate instead of the 20%.
You want to withdraw your motion?
Yeah, I withdraw that motion, and then I will make another motion that we look at doing a staggered utility tax increase.
Of what denominations? What percentages? You need to be specific.
Okay, 10%.
10% staggered
At least
over
10,
what period of time?
You know,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be that specific. I can just say 10%.
So you want
Yes.
to withdraw the 20% and make a motion to increase it by
Over the
only
next
10?
2 years, if you want me to do, you know, I'll say next 2 years.
Is Ron going to be here tonight at any point?
Ron's not here this evening.
We need to be specific.
Okay, well, I can say 10% over the next 2 years. You know, increase it 10%. I just want it lowered. I'm thinking about our constituents. And Charlie, I understand. I've been there. I saw all that.
Right.
But I'm also looking at the other side. And in light of the information that we were given, which may be half-truths, and, you know, I want to make sure that we do our due diligence with the constituents. And if we do 10% over the next 2 years, then that will give the constituents time. We already did a 17%.
Ms. Jones, what I'm trying to say here,
I did, I said
when you say
10%.
over 2 years, we need to be specific as to what you're talking about. If you say over 2 years, hypothetically, 5% this year and 5% next year, or some semblance of that.
Excuse me for a second. Can we get some direction, because I don't think my thing is, and I'm not trying to tell you how to say your motion, but I understand what you're saying, and he's still asking for specifics, and the specifics need to be discussed by the group. I understand what you're saying, so you
Yeah.
keep saying specifics. We don't have any specifics. She's just trying to say that she wants to have an increase gradually, and the council can discuss what that looks like, whether it's 5, whether it's 10, whether it's 2.1. So how does she need to say her motion that allows us
I would say you have your discussion, right? So there's a motion, a second, and a discussion. You can offer during the discussion period what you would like to see.
Okay, well, I made the motion staggered increase. And so if someone will second it, then we would talk about what the staggered looks like within the, if the council will discuss it.
But that's not what the mayor's saying, so that's why I'm trying to get clarity on what we need to do, because I will second whatever your motion is, but he's asking for specifics that we don't, that you don't have, so how do we make the motion so that we can get to the discussion?
I think you need to understand, I think what the mayor's asking is 10% over 2 years, is that 5% each year, or is that 10% this year and 10% the next year for a total of 20?
It could be
What?
7% this year, it could be 3% the next year, we don't
Right.
know, that's what we're trying to.
I think that's what he's asking.
I think you have.
Okay.
What the goal is.
Okay. I move that we do a staggered increase, 10% over the next 2 years, 5% the first year, and 5% the second year. Is that specific enough?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is for me. So we have a motion to basically have a 10% increase staggered over a period of 2 years, 5% in FY 22-23, and 5% in 23-24. When you say 2 years, I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Okay.
You second?
She said she
Okay,
said.
motion was second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Since we have an expert here that actually was one of our tour guides of the facilities, one of the facilities being at the wastewater reclamation, can you come and give your stance on that minimal amount of an increase as opposed to inflation? If we don't get these parts now, what it could possibly be, can you kind of expound on that if we go with that low as opposed to, because I don't want to go up that much, but something has to be done. As we
And
said
I
before,
agree.
Kicking
I
the
agree
can
with
down the
that.
road incrementally, had it been done years back, cool. But now we're at a point where a gallon of milk's almost $5, same as a gallon of gas. So my concern, and listening to the concerns of the employees, and I've since gone back to the facilities, is that parts, what costs $100 a day might be $300 next week. So kicking the can down the road is my philosophy, and we don't need to do that. And I just want your expertise in being that you deal with this. What is your thoughts?
I've been with the waste treatment plant for 28 years this month. And through that time, we've had equipment that's been there since the 80s. We've got equipment that's been there since 1994, and we had an upgrade in 2020. None of that equipment has been replaced. I have lift stations that are old as me out there with equipment that is out there that's degrading constantly. To replace that equipment and hold off on that equipment right now, you're looking at it, just on steel alone is ridiculously high. So each time that we wait to do this, the more expensive it gets. It doesn't change the fact that we need to fix these problems that we have. But it's not going to get any cheaper as we go down the road with this. Does that make that clear with what I'm trying to explain?
We knew that, we knew that, right?
I mean, you've seen my sand filter. You've seen the water plant. You've seen the compost facility. The compost facility is another great example. That's a wear and tear item out there. The equipment that they use it every day. To replace that equipment, and we're doing this in-house, just to replace wear and tear items for an agitator is $300,000 for one agitator, okay? That's not getting any cheaper. And then we have to wait for the parts to get here. So you're looking at like a bar screen. If I get a bar screen that's well over 20, 30 years old, I'm waiting on parts, it's gonna take at least a year to get it, okay? So that's what you're looking at in a scheme of things. You're looking at equipment that is failing, and as we wait, we're gonna get to the point where they fail, where we have to do emergency repairs, and if we do that, then we're really stuck because we'll have spills, things of that nature. More things will escalate after that. So if we do this now, it's gonna be cheaper, and it's gonna be better for the citizens of Goldsboro.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I've got one question. Did we not, when we were going through what, the planned progression of how much increase we had, we said this year, and what was recommended was about 20%.
That's correct, sir.
And then next year was 12 to 15%, right?
That's correct.
And if we knock it down again, and then the next year was 10 or so percent, just to get us to operating safety level.
That's correct, sir.
Is that not what we were presenting?
Yes.
Well, and I would love to reduce this too, but I can't see us doing it if in fact we're kicking, as Councilman Pollack says, we're kicking the can down the road that's gonna cost us more money. I don't like it either, but I know we've got to do it. So, in all due respect, I can't support that we don't stay with the 20%. That's just my feeling.
Any other questions for? Thanks,
I
sir.
just think maybe we might could look somewhere else and get some money from somewhere else, and do the 10%. But, you know, you take your vote. That's my stance. I do care about the citizens, and I care about the plant and what's happening to it. So.
Is there any more discussion?
If I can clarify, you know, the ARPA funds that you approved last year are still in the public utilities. It's part of this here, what you see is highlighted or asterisked, all those capital improvements are part of the ARPA funding that was approved the previous year that we haven't done yet, that we're going to roll into this budget cycle. So, you know, that was mentioned as not being used last night, but it will be used as council allotted. Now, there's also ARPA funds that are available to the city through the state of about $15 million. That funding has been requested as of the May 2nd data call, and that has to deal with 2-inch galvanized water line and phase 3 sewer. So those projects, which were originally $3 and $5 million respectively, are going up about twice as much, which will take up just about all of that $15 million. So we are using ARPA as much as we can, or likely will be allowed to. We've used the $22 million that was mentioned last night from the Department of Commerce for the Project Butter that is helping us out somewhat in one of these aspects on the Highway 117 pump station, a Little Cherry, Big Cherry project that hopefully we won't have to do, but there's plenty of CIP requirements out there.
Mayor, I've already spoken saying that I can't support it as much as I wish I could, because I don't want to pay any extra either. I mean, it's my water bill too. But I don't want us falling into a position where that we're subsidizing utility fund, the general fund, and that's where we're heading. We've seen the graphs, and I do not enjoy this vote at all. I didn't like it the first time. I really don't like it now either, but I can't support reducing it at this time.
Any other discussion? So we have.
I want to see that report, because we were presented several reports and recommendations that talked about what the increases would look like, and I don't particularly recall seeing the one that said it would be 10 to 12. I thought it would be pretty consistent with what we are doing this year. So can I see the report that Mr. Broadway was referring to? Because the one that I looked at,
We'd have to go get the last Stantec
it
report
didn't.
and pull it up.
I would like to see it at some point. It doesn't have to be right now. I don't recall that. We saw a lot of them, and we did see one that provided what it would look like if we did smaller increments. It just wasn't favorable amongst the majority of the group, so we didn't discuss it. So it is very much an option. It's just not an option that the majority wants to do, and I understand that. So I want to see the report that shows the 10 to 12, and then I'll provide you with the report that I said next year will be pretty consistent with this year.
Any other discussion? Okay, the motion is that we have a phased 10% increase, 5% this year, 5% next fiscal year. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. You got it?
Opposed.
All opposed? Motion is defeated.
All right, sir. get us back to where we were. Okay, so I think the major topic we need to discuss here is what are we gonna do to pay the city employees? We talked about this a bit last night, up for council discussion, and we can provide any answers you may have on that. But the recommendation, the cheapest option here from staff is to do a 5% COLA, no merit or bonus, and that's gonna cost about $430,000. We talked about different prices for the GPD and the GFD add-ons, with the $91,000 for the GPD in delayed corporal hires, and the $161,000, about $100,000 of that is delayed hires for the fire department, and $60,000 in a fee associated with inspections. We'll have to iron out whether we can get that fee accomplished or not, but that fee could be almost twice as much if we were to execute it through the whole year. So if we execute it through half year, we're hoping to gain that. But that offset may not be realized, and we may need to reduce or use fund balance more to make that up, or put more into fund balance of the next slide here. So these were all the offsets we added up. Engineering for the road was $500,000, and then we went back to department heads and asked them for 2% from their manpower salary costs to find it in other ways throughout the departments. We went through this last night. I think what my recommendation would be at this point in time is that you approve option 3, and then we keep the additional funding in a contingency, because your fuel prices, we just have no idea where that's going to go. And we can, if the year turns out better, we have less cost for fuel, and we can do the road paving, we can make that decision later on.
I think if there are 3 options, the ones that look best to retaining our employees would be option 3.
Mayor,
I
over to you
would
to.
concur with that myself.
I would concur.
I'll leave it up to the council to vote on it.
That'll give them continuing.
Anyone want to comment on those 3? Or make a motion to accept?
I make a motion that for our employee pay increase, we go with option 3, which is a 5% COLA plus 2 with no merit pay or bonus.
Second.
Motion's made and second. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor of accepting option 3 for the pay options, please raise your hand. All opposed?
7-0.
Motion's carried.
So the way to pay for that, would council concur with my recommendation that we take these offsets and we put whatever's left, basically $505,000, into the contingency fund? If you see the contingency there at $75,000 or $725,000, we would add that to this, making it $1.2 million roughly, which gives us some good leeway going forward on fuel prices. Right now, as I mentioned last night, the fuel prices could cost anywhere from $100,000 to $250,000 more, as of what we've previously budgeted.
I think that's wise. Get into fiscal year Q2 or Q3. Kind of see where the economy is stabilizing at, see where commodity prices are stabilizing at, see where fuel prices are stabilizing at. Then you'll know if you can divert some of that back to some of these projects, or back to roads, or what you're going to have to do with it. I think that's wise to give yourself some options in Q2 and 3.
Okay, we have the line item detail for all this that we will pass to the Isley Group so that they can finalize it in the budget with Catherine.
And this is in fund balance, right?
Yeah, well, right now, this was in line items for departments that we will pull and put into this contingency fund, and then we can use it as necessary.
Okay. That's,
In the end, if you don't use it, it'll go to fund balance.
yeah.
Okay?
Catherine, can you project what our current fund balance is?
I can, I need to get the final numbers from the Isley Group when they get the budget done. If you would like, I can provide it before the 20th meeting, or I can provide it at the 20th meeting for a projection of fund balance.
How about at the 20th minute?
Yes, sir.
20th meeting?
Yes, sir.
We might as well put more stress on your job, Catherine.
You're talking about fund balance at the end of this FY.
Yes, that's what I gathered you're looking for,
Yes.
projected FY 20, yes, sir.
Okay. I understand you wanted to hold off on the nonprofit organization discussion. We'll put
Yes.
the 160,000 against that and iron that out at a later date.
We do have, we did approve $160,000 to be allocated to the MPO.
Yes, sir, I believe it was 160 or 161. I'd have to go
Was
back
it?
and
Okay,
get the specific.
It was 160, I made the
Yeah.
motion.
Okay.
I have a question.
Or Randy made the
Regarding
motion.
EPOs. Since we, didn't do
You
the
made the motion.
8,000 for the days here, could that money be somehow put into the NPOs, or is that not an option?
So
He's got to include something else.
Okay.
these were the offsets. I included that, it depending on what you wanted to do. But right now, that's gonna go into your contingency fund. So whatever you wanna pull out of the contingency fund, however much you wanna add to the nonprofits, you can do that. Again, it won't be available for other things.
Can I ask, why we're delaying the conversation and whose idea it was to delay it? What are we delaying it for and to, and why?
I'll answer that question. I delayed it because I did not want that to interfere with our budget in terms of it being something that would take away from getting this matter resolved here tonight. The money's there. We have time to appropriate it to the various MPOs. Any other discussion items? We,
Oh, well, I'm sorry, one more thing. We may want to, being that we are in the budget booth, it actually spoke to, hold on one second, I got my notes here. It says the total nonprofit organization funding remains the same as last year, and the allocation is to be determined by council, so that verbiage doesn't read correctly, I just wanted to. Cause if it's
That's 160 instead of 161, or,
but last year it was 300-some thousand, that's what I budgeted.
That
well,
included Gateway.
that included Gateway, yeah.
Okay.
does any department, I'm sorry, will you?
Oh, yeah.
Does any department head have anything they would like to say? Well, Mr. Manager, do we have anything else to conduct?
I don't have anything else to add, sir. If council's satisfied with what's been presented, we'll work with the Isley Group to get these numbers finalized and over to Catherine so that she can create the budget ordinance, which will be presented on the 20th.
Does any other council member have anything to say? Any other business? If not, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.